Hello, and welcome to the 108 podcast. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Raquel.
And we're the Type 1 Together girls.
We are stripping down life with Type 1 diabetes from two people who live different versions of it every single day. Please remember, Type 1 Together does not give medical advice. We are only sharing from personal experience. Hello.
Hi, Raquel. I'm so excited to be
back.
recording together.
Yeah, it's been many months, I think.
I think 4 months, 3.5, 4 months.
April, yeah. So crazy. I'm so excited. We have so much to catch up on. Like everyone listening, we haven't even gotten to catch up in weeks, but we're going to just get this recording out so we can make sure we get something out for you guys. And then maybe some of our catch up will come out in this episode.
Yeah.
I want to start off though with a few Type 1 Together updates because we just have a lot going on and we want to tell you about it. So first of all, we are doing a series of webinars with Sanofi talking all about advancements in type 1 diabetes screening and also the treatment options that are available. So we're doing one that might be done by the time this comes out, but then we're going to have another one on August 18th, I believe is the date, and it's totally free to join. And for everyone who joins, you're going to be entered to win a Diabuddy. 3 people will win one of your choice. You can choose the animal and the devices, so that's really exciting. We get so many questions about screening and the treatment options out there, and I just don't have the answers, so I'm really thankful that Sanofi is bringing that to our community. So that's update number 1. We also have been getting a lot of questions about when the next grandparent course is happening, and we are going to be opening up enrollment for that in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. And then we also have a really fun kids event happening in Los Angeles on August 3rd. I believe this episode will be out before then. We have like 1 spot left, I'm pretty sure. But if you hear this and you're in the LA area, come join. It's a little ceramic painting party where your kids can choose what they want to paint and hang out and meet other type 1s. Great for the parents to meet each other too. And then we also have auto mode. Do you want to talk about that for a second, Amanda?
Yeah, so our auto mode masterclass is back finally. So Meg, our dietitian, and we give a live 90-minute presentation. And we start off by going through, slides, and it's just all things auto mode on Omnipod 5. The algorithm is a very unique algorithm, unlike any other on the market. And if you don't understand how it works and what you as the user have the ability to actually like tweak to contribute to the algorithm being successful, then you're not going to be successful. So a lot of people get on Omnipod 5 and they find that it's so frustrating and they're always on their child's PDM or the app or whatever. And it doesn't have to be like that. So Meg and I go through all of the settings of Omnipod 5, explain what they are, what they do, why they're important, and then we give a lot of our own unique life experience dealing with the pump and like how we deal with different life situations like sick days. And like Meg talks about her menstrual cycle and what she does for that and things of that nature. So it's one of our most popular master classes for sure. People see a lot of success with it. So if you're struggling on Omnipod 5, definitely sign up. If you can't make it live, you can get the recording. And then we also have 3 printable resources that we specifically designed with you guys in mind and this class in mind to help you succeed and just kind of, supplement as you are working through it. So, yeah.
Yay.
Oh, did I say when it was? That's on August 8th or 6th.
August 6th, we think. I know, us and all our dates. Everything is linked in our website, and we can put all that in the show notes too. But this might be the last time we do this live this year. That's to be determined, but there's a good chance it is. So definitely take advantage of that if you want. Even if you can't join it live, if you join now, you can submit your questions to be answered live. So that's really the benefit of that. Okay, I think that's all the updates. Let's get into it. I mean, how are you?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot. It's funny because if you're watching this, first of all, it's so cool that Spotify did that whole thing where you can now like watch it. So if you're watching this and I'm looking down or walking away at all, it's because the baby is supposed to be napping and she is just, 3.5 months fighting those naps real hard. Yeah, that's just a little tidbit, but I think we might get her. I don't know. Knock on wood. See. And then what else? Oh gosh. Okay. This episode we need to talk all about our vacations because so much happened in the last month and you and I barely even talked. So I want to hear about Friends for Life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, Friends for Life was amazing. I think we've mentioned it on here before a few times, but we still get questions. So if you don't know, it's a big conference at Disney World in Orlando at one of the resorts there where there's tons of type 1s. I think there were almost 3,000 family or people there total this year, which is just crazy. And everywhere you go, you see people walking around with devices, and it's really special. So this was my third year going, and it's just amazing. I feel like every year I go, I know more what to expect and like kind of have my routine figured out. So I do think it's getting better and better in that way. And what I mean by that is I'm going as an exhibitor, right? Like I have a table for Type 1 Together, and I'm also going to do a lot of work with brands that we work with and get content there and all of that. And so I'm like running around the whole time. Whereas if you're a family going, you're going to the sessions and hanging out, and it's maybe a little more chill, probably not. It's just complete chaos. But
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we missed you so much, Amanda, and everyone is asking about you, of course, and wishing you well.
Oh
So
my
please know
gosh, it looks
that.
so fun.
It was really fun. And, so much more of the community is in our community now, as weird as that sounds, but like so many people were just coming up and so excited to say hi. And people really love the podcast, which I don't know why, but like I feel like in our minds, it's just one of our lower, not prioritized things, but just like, I'm like, oh yeah,
Well, it's just
people listen, but
yeah,
it's
it's
not
just
like
not getting the
Instagram.
traction. It's not like skyrocketing to,
Right.
like followers and likes and whatever, which is totally fine. We want to
Right.
keep doing it because it's fun and it's important. And I don't think there's another thing really like it out there where it's like
Yeah.
this kind of unique perspective plus interviews plus just chatty where, I think it's relatable.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people were saying. They just absolutely love the podcast, which just made me excited to come back and record more with you. So that was really cool. And then I even got to just meet some faces in the community that we know so well, like Danielle, shout out to you. She was there, and just getting to hug everyone in real life and getting to say hi is just unreal. So yeah, I don't know if there was anything super different to report back on. I just feel like there's a lot of new things coming out on the market, and the big exhibit hall where all the brands are, it was completely full this year. I feel like some years there's some tables that are open, and there's new pumps coming out. There's a lot of new just technology related things. I ended up coming home with a glucose. I'm really excited to set that up. That's one of those
Whoa.
ball looking things that changes colors based on your blood sugar.
I don't think I realized you've never had one before.
Yeah, I've never had that, and I've never had a sugar pixel, and I am going to order one. I've decided sometime
Yeah.
soon. They have a really cool new attachment. I want to say it's called the Sidekick, but I could be wrong. That allows you to plug in all different sorts of things into your sugar pixel to wake you up. So like they were showing it with a bubble machine, with a fan, with like these different lights, and basically just being really creative about the ways that you can get woken up for lows, because that's still such a concern for adults and for kids. So I just love talking to them and seeing their innovation. Yeah, I just really suggest everyone who is thinking about attending try to make it out one year. It is every summer in Orlando, but they do offer these smaller conferences in Anaheim, and I want to say like Nashville or somewhere else. I've never been to either of those, and I've heard they're amazing as well, but definitely a bit smaller. And I also just want to give a really big shout out to some of our team members and fellow Type 1 community advocates. I don't even know what to call them, but just amazing humans that joined me at the table this year. So we had Meg, who's our dietitian. She's gone every year with us and has been with us forever. And then Amanda Mueller, who's Bolus and Biceps on Instagram. And she does the Tandem Deep Dive Masterclass and is starting to get more involved and is just such an amazing human. And then Brooke, who does our nervous system regulation class, Balancing the Chaos. They were all at the table with me and just so helpful. Like they were giving the whole spiel, like asked me what I needed help with. And, I mean, I just felt so grateful to have their support. So I love you guys so much.
I'm so glad that you had that support system there. I
Yeah.
felt so bad when we were talking about when I was like pregnant, we were talking about the timing of like how old was the baby going to be? And it was just like yeah, I cannot leave a
Yeah.
3-month-old for a week, basically. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so much work. It's so much effort. It's so exhausting. Raquel cannot be by herself. So I am so incredibly grateful to those women for showing up and being there for you and representing Type 1 together so beautifully.
They did such a good job. I was blown away because I didn't want to put that on them either. But people would come up and they're like, we have this, we have that, we have these master classes and all these things, and blown away. But yeah, how was your trip? I didn't have any crazy diabetes things happen this year at Friends for Life, although I have at the past in the past, but unfortunately I think you dealt with some
Yeah,
challenges.
yeah. And I think that that is what the bulk of this episode will get into. I think we'll just like, discuss my real life experience. And if anyone has more questions about the use of steroids and how that affects your blood sugars, I suppose we can put that on our to-do list of a deep dive episode regarding like the science behind it, maybe. But yeah, so we road trip to Lake Tahoe. So we're in San Diego and we go to North Shore Lake Tahoe with my family every year in the summertime, and we always road trip. I grew up road tripping. So what we did is we left at 4 in the morning with all three kids, and of course we hit a fatal accident, which put everything into perspective, but just an hour in. So we weren't very far away from San Diego. And we were just like, we have our family, we have our health, everything is fine. But
Yeah.
because of that delay where we were sitting there waiting to, like go past it, it allowed for the sun to come up, the kids to get
Mhm.
awoken earlier, to be hungry earlier. And it just kind of like set the day off in like a funky tone where we couldn't like push through a bunch of the drive at first. And the only reason I'm even saying all this is to explain why my husband and I were kind of just like, oh, Hattie, our 5-year-old type 1 diabetic daughter, is acting off. Whatever. Her sugars are normal and now they're not. Whatever. She woke up at 4. It's been a weird day. So it's like one of those things where I think a lot of parents come to me being like, how do you know? How do you know when it's illness versus pod failure versus whatever? And I think my simple answer is my husband and I just look at what the most obvious answer probably is and go with that first until we're told otherwise. So when we were driving, she was just kind of like, off a little bit. She just seemed really tired, bored, whatever. And her sugars were pretty flat at first. And then we got breakfast at like 6 and she ordered pancakes, but she didn't eat anything. Like, I don't even know if she took a bite of anything. We were kind of like, aren't you hungry? Okay. And we packed it all up, assuming she'd be hungry later. And she never asked for them. Her sugars stayed pretty steady. She might have had like orange juice or something. So we had something in her. And then by lunchtime, because we had to stop pretty frequently, of course, now at this point, it's like we're only 1 hour in, the sun's starting to come up. Now all the kids are awake and they're like, that's not fair to the kids to be like, sit in your car seat for 4 hours perfectly still. So we took another break, maybe like a couple hours after that. And we got like an early lunch and we were like giving her all of her options and she didn't want any of the food, but she said yes to ice cream. And we're like, great, like it's vacation. Let's do ice cream for lunch. Who cares? And I bolused her at first 35 because a scoop of ice cream is about 30 usually. And because it was like basically the first thing in her belly, I wanted to do a little bit extra. And she was flat, flat, flat. And then we started driving, and then she was jumping by like 20s. So she was like 110, 130, 150. And I was like, runaway freight train. And gave her so much extra insulin. I think we ended up bolusing for maybe the equivalent of like 80 grams, and it was not a big enough scoop of ice cream to warrant that. But we again are thinking, okay, the day is off. We're sitting in the car, we're entering elevation. The more we drive, this is what happens. Elevation increases her sugars, sitting increases her sugars. She's not having well balanced meals, not thinking anything of it, right? And then we finally get to Lake Tahoe in the 6 o'clock hour. So we were in the car for 14 hours, which is just so miserable. And I don't know, they went to bed by 9. They were stoked to be there. And yeah, so we just thought everything was fine. And my husband snores, love you, D, but you do snore sometimes. And so when we got there halfway through the night, I was like, hey, can you leave our bedroom, please? And so he went downstairs and slept on the couch just at our rental. And because he was waking myself and Bonnie up, our baby. So anyway, then I get woken up at 5:50 in the morning. Well, actually, I was already awake breastfeeding, but Danny opens the door and he's like, babe, babe, Hattie, she can't breathe. She can't breathe. And this is so scary because I was right next to the girl's bedroom, but I didn't hear her. He heard her from all the way downstairs. I didn't hear her because we have a sound machine for the baby to like help her sleep throughout the night. And so she comes in and she's just like, and like, it is fast and slow, and she is working. And we have never had any of our kids go into true respiratory distress before. And I just knew immediately that she was not okay. And so I was like, take her to the emergency room right now. Luckily, the small town we were in, we go to Incline Village. Oh, Bonnie says hi. The small town we're in, they do have like a local community hospital that's just a 3-minute drive from where we're staying. And we know this because last year she got a sudden and severe UTI over the weekend when all the clinics were closed. So we had to go to the hospital. So my husband took her and she was satting in the 80s, meaning her body was struggling for oxygen. So she ended up getting oxygen and like a nebulized saline solution. And then they gave her nebulized steroids through the oxygen mask and a dose of oral steroids, and sent her home with a prescription for steroids the next 2 days, oral steroids, because her chest x-ray showed viral pneumonia and she was diagnosed with croup because of just a standard virus. Luckily, it wasn't like COVID or measles or anything super terrifying, but it's still really scary, right?
Yeah.
And overnight her sugars were high, which happens a lot. It's like right before she's symptomatic when she's getting sick is when her sugars go high, and then when she's symptomatic and her body is really working, that's when her sugars stay in range usually. And so that was, yeah, that was our like only indicator. But because it was happening overnight and we were at elevation, it's not like we were thinking, oh, she's definitely sick. It was just when she woke up and was having trouble breathing. So once we got the steroids in her, I knew to expect that those steroids were going to skyrocket her sugars. Of course, we've seen all of our, people in the community talk about how tough it is. I was not prepared. I was not prepared. I mean, I was prepared in the sense that I always bring all emergency supplies and like 3 to 5 times the amount of supplies, insulin included, that we need. But I was not prepared for the sheer amount of insulin that would actually need to go into her body to keep
Yeah.
her just in the 400s. It was wild. So we did start to see her sugars. My husband changed her pump while she was in the hospital because she was like in the high 200s, low 300s when she was in the hospital. And so he was like, I'm just not even going to mess with it. I'm just going to like change it so that we know it's fresh, it's working, there's fresh insulin. So I thought that was really smart. And yeah, I basically just started giving insulin. Like, I know a lot of you ask in the DMs often, like, do you always use sensor? What if it tells you zero? I basically was not using the math or the automated anything on the pump, and I was just using it as a tool to give her as much insulin as possible. And so, I mean, we were letting her eat whatever she wanted. There was definitely not any situation where we were like, oh, you're 300, we need to wait for this to come down, because there is no waiting for it to come down when
Yeah.
you are on steroids. And so we would bolus like say she wanted pasta, because once the steroids kicked in, it was literally 12 hours later that she was like, I feel great.
Mm.
Like, and so she had like a normal appetite. And when she did have this normal appetite and she would want just like pasta, pizza, just as whatever, we would dose for like, I don't know, 50 grams, whatever 50 grams said, plus a correction. And it wouldn't touch it. She would start a meal at 300 and she would hit 480. And then we would slam insulin. And I'm talking slamming insulin as like 5 units,
Yeah.
8 units, like just giving it. And of
Mhm.
course, it's like, I think a lot of you might have questions about how'd you know how much to give? And I slowly worked my way up. So if she was 300 and super flat and we weren't eating for a while and she had minimal insulin on board, minimal, I mean like 2 to 3 units, because there was already tons because she was so high, I would start with 1 unit and wait 30 minutes and see what happened. 1 unit was nothing. One unit was almost like giving her a freaking bag of gummies. She spiked by 100. It's like the weirdest thing. Then I would try 3 units, then 5 units. And I think our scariest time was day 2 of steroids when we were giving her boluses of 4 to 6 units at a time every 2 hours. Nothing was happening. Her sugars were just sitting at between 300 and 450. And at one point, I picked up the phone because I was like, oh my gosh, the next reading is like, I did a finger prick to make sure I did finger pricks every 3 to 4 hours to like really verify that the numbers were accurate. And her finger prick was like 480. And I was like, okay, more insulin. And I go and pick up her phone, and her phone says 15 units on board. 1 5, 15. Have you ever had 15 units on board at one time?
Yeah, but not a lot of times. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, for a 5-year-old, I was
Yeah.
just like, and it was at that point where I was like, and I'm in over my head. I'm in over my head. I'm no longer comfortable continuing to give this much because we have yet to see the insulin actually take effect and like big drops happen.
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep giving insulin and be stuck with 20, 25, 30 units on board. And that's when the big drops are happening. And then we have to race her to the emergency room for IV fluids of sugar water. And so I ended up calling her endo office and explaining the situation. And they unfortunately just weren't that helpful. It like started off with this has happened a couple times where I'm calling in and I explain what I've done, and then I'm like, and now what? And they go back to square one, and it's like they start doing diabetes 101 basics. Okay, and have you checked a finger prick? Like, yes, I've already explained that I've done finger pricks every 2 hours. These are real. The Dexcom is real.
Yeah.
This is real. Like, okay. And have we changed the pump? And it's like, yes, I already told you we've changed the pump. Like, okay. And have you given an extra manually? And it's like, it's not about the manual dose. Like the manual dose is not giving an injection is not going to do anything right now. And then they were, kind of suggesting change the pump, just give the correction, whatever the pump is suggesting, but don't give more insulin until 3 hours later. Okay. You can't give more insulin until 3 hours later. And I was like, I mean, I'm giving insulin. Like, I have to give it. She has been so high. And they're like, well, check what are the ketones? And I was like, the ketones in the morning, they were on the higher-ish end, like 1.2. But then once we got like fluid and insulin in her, because I think like overnight, just the lack of, like carbs in her system from the day was a struggle, but we got them down to like zero point 0.1 in just a few hours. And so I explained that to them. And I explained like I've given a bolus of 5 units when her blood sugar with a finger prick was 480, and 2 hours later it was 420. That 5 units of insulin is not working. And they're like, well, maybe the pump's not. And I'm like, again, the
Oh
pump
my
is not
gosh.
the issue. Yeah.
But that makes
And
me think
so
like they don't know that steroids equals high blood sugars. Like, what do you mean we
they,
keep talking about the pump? Like, there's clearly another factor here they're not even mentioning.
they know that the steroids are happening, but they're saying stuff like, well, that, steroids can cause an increase in blood sugars. Can,
Just a
yeah, no
little.
duh. And illness also results in some high blood sugars. So, and I just went to like pull my hair out because I was like, and there was one point where she did say to me, the endo said to me, because the nurse was even like, this is out of my scope of practice. It's so much insulin and the numbers are so extreme. Like, you have to talk to a doctor. And so I was chatting with the doctor, and when I really told her everything that I had done, and she was just like, wow, you're really on top of it. You know a lot, mom. And I'm like, thanks, but I'm calling you because I've reached this point where I'm really uncomfortable with
Yeah.
how much insulin she has in her system. I'm literally on the phone with you essentially to get permission to continue giving insulin regardless of the fact that she has 15 units on board and her blood sugar is truly in the 400s. And she just kind of didn't really give me an answer. She said something along the lines of like, people can need up to 50%. of their total daily insulin needs while on insulin. So if Hattie on the high end needs 20 units per day, that means she would need 50% more is 10 more units, right? So 30 units total per day. When I was on the phone with her, we were already at 48 units per day, like for the day. And I just was sort of like, I'm not sure that you understand what's happening. I didn't say that to her,
Yeah.
but I just knew that I wasn't going to get the answer that I needed. And it's very likely because there aren't studies done
Mm,
to back up medical advice, you know?
that's
So
totally
she was
true.
also probably stuck, and maybe she's never seen this before. I don't know what it is about our sweet Hattie girl, but she does tend to be that unique one percenter where we have a lot of experiences with her where it's like, oh, less than 1% of the population experiences. And so maybe it was something like that, but she ended up needing on her second day of steroids, which was our toughest day, she ended up needing 50 or using 55 units of insulin in that 24-hour period. And she was high. No, she was in range 14% of the day, and the rest was
Yeah.
high.
Yep. And just for reference, I use generally between 40 and 50 units a day. So it's crazy to think about
I
that for a
mean,
little kid.
nuts. So, like, think about if we had given her enough insulin to keep her blood sugars in range for the day, what would that have looked like?
Does it even happen? That's what I don't understand about steroids. Well, first of all, you were keeping her under 500, right? Was there ever a point where the Dexcom said HIGH or the finger prick said high? No. Okay. But a lot of people experience that where it's just a flat line because they're too scared to give that much insulin, which I
Yeah.
understand. I mean, that's terrifying. And so, can you only imagine if it was a parent who's not giving more and more and more, how high the blood sugar actually is? But can insulin really touch steroids too? I guess if you're giving like 100 units, but I wouldn't do that either.
I know it was too scary. I don't know. That's my question is like, is there a known amount of insulin that has kept blood sugars in range while the person is on steroids? You know who I want to talk to is, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? I'm so sorry. Is it Matt, the FT warrior?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Matt. I want to ask him if he's ever had to be on steroids for any sort of health related issue and how he's dealt with that and the insulin needs there.
Yeah. If there's anyone listening who has an experience and has been successful with it, definitely. I think there's a way to comment on the episode or DM us because I'm curious also. And these are the
Yeah.
moments that are so scary with diabetes. Like you and I both feel so confident with things. And then these one off situations come along and you're like, wait, this is actually so scary and can get so serious so quickly.
Yes. And it was like, she was acting totally fine and she never complained about feeling gross. So I don't really know, but she was also like, we're in Lake Tahoe with cousins. I want to go play. And so like
Yeah.
we did it. Like once her symptoms were gone, like we spent a whole day inside and then there were no more symptoms and nobody else was getting sick. We were like, okay, let's go play outside because they advised us like as long as you're outdoors and you're not like, face to face with people and it should be okay. And so we were able to still relatively enjoy the vacation, but it was just crazy. And then it was like, the second half of the vacation was then really challenging because we were dealing with a lot of lows because the pump for 3 days was giving anywhere between 40 and 60 units total of insulin. So then it's like readjusting the threshold for like
Yeah.
how much basal to give. And anytime she would jump high, it would like spit out tons of basal because it had the option to do that.
Wait,
But
so
then she
did you
would
actually switch into manual mode before, or you were just manually giving extra ones?
um I switched to manual mode and was giving manual. Oh no,
So,
switched to manual mode, but never gave an injection. She hates
yeah.
injection.
So with manual mode and then switching back to auto mode, I'm just curious about this. It will still consider the amount in the previous pods that was given, even though it wasn't in auto mode.
As far as I'm aware, I don't think it has much to do with auto mode specifically. It has everything to do with the total daily insulin.
Yeah. Okay. And then my other question for you is what was the transition of getting off the steroids? Was it an immediate drop and then you're seeing a lot of lows or was it gradual?
It was a little more gradual, but it was also really hard to tell because, like I said, we're in altitude, and altitude typically tends to spike her.
So many things.
Altitude for us is really challenging because when she's stagnant, it spikes her, but the second she starts moving, it plummets her when she has fresh insulin on board. So it's like if she's sitting on the couch and we dose her as normal for a plate of pasta, she's going to go high. But if she's sitting on the couch and we dose her for a normal plate of pasta and then she starts playing, she's gonna go low and we can't keep it up for the life of us, you know? It's like she almost needs like half of that. But on vacation, as we all know, like they're just doing whatever they're gonna do. Like there is no structure truly. I don't know, we just kind of rolled with it. And once she was off the steroids, we went back into auto mode and then giving her like her normal dosing, you know, and we were out of manual mode. That is one thing. Thank you for bringing that up though. When we were on the steroids, we went out of auto mode and into manual mode and we created a steroid use profile
Mm.
and I adjusted her basal rate, which like if we have to go into manual mode and she's not sick, our basal rate is I think 0.45 units per hour. We adjusted that basal rate to be like 3 or 4 units per hour, maybe 5 units per hour. So like
Yeah,
so much more. And
so much more.
uh, yeah, it
This
was
is,
like, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just
I was going to say
it
this is such a good opportunity to speak to manual mode because we do get those questions, and this is where, like, when you have manual mode, you can tell the pump how much basal to give, and it's not communicating at all with your CGM. So if you say give 3 units per hour and she's in the 60s, it's still going to give 3 units per hour, but it's not always scary like that, right? It's actually really nice on days where you know more insulin is needed or less insulin is needed, which is also why
Mhm,
the temporary basal rate feature is super
mhm.
helpful, which I think is also available in manual mode for Omnipod, but not in automated mode like it is
Correct.
for Control IQ.
Yeah.
But because you can give it that input, there's still a lot of confusion between those two modes, but you probably understand it a lot now more, right? Because this is your first time really using it.
Yeah, it was my first time really using it, and it was seriously so helpful. Like, I'm so grateful that we could switch out of the automated mode and into the manual mode. And I will say that one thing we figured out is the manual mode was really helpful because by day 3 of the steroids, which of course it's like you need a few days to get things kind of to see the patterns and figure out what you need, but then by the third day she was done with them, so we didn't need them anymore. But day 3, once we switched her into a manual mode basal profile for steroid use, her sugars didn't get above 250. So we struggled with them between 180 and 250, but that's so much better than just constantly being 350 to 500, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that was interesting. But there was one point by the end of the third day, because she would take her steroids in the morning with breakfast. By like afternoon of the third day, last day of steroids, we gave her a big bolus with her lunch. She was, you know, at the 280 mark or something like that. And then we saw a drop of like 15, 15, 15. And once she was under 250, I slipped right back into auto mode. I was like, okay,
Great.
we gotta get out of here. I'm finally seeing the drops because I didn't see a single drop that was like actually big and significant like that the entire 3 days she was on her steroids.
Yeah. I've also
So
wondered forever because I don't think I've taken steroids maybe as a kid, but like, does having that high of blood sugars for so long while you're trying to heal something else, does that impact the healing process and the efficacy of the steroid? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I do, but I don't know because I feel like with steroids, like for a normal person, not normal, sorry,
You're
someone
normal.
without diabetes
I say it too.
who is taking steroids, my generalized understanding is like the steroids are meant to have really fast cell turnover in order to like facilitate healing quickly, right? And so in order to do that, the liver has to release extra glucagon or glucose for the healing process and for the cells to be able to build up and work as they're supposed to. So it makes sense why the sugars are that high, and I feel like the body was probably using like as much as it needed. It's like I can pick from 500, you know, milligrams per
Yeah.
deciliter of blood sugar is easy peasy. Like I'm not searching for it. But yeah, these are all like the great scientific questions that I have too for doctors and
Yeah.
whoever else might like really understand it. Um, but yeah, she was honestly acting fine. It was just the most bizarre thing I've ever really
Yeah.
seen, like because we've seen so many people in our DMs talking about like steroid use and this is crazy and it's so high and it's like water and whatever. And I knew that, but I expected once I was like, okay, I'm gonna give 5 units. Five
Yeah.
units. Oh, it's been an hour, another five. She jumped up
Yeah.
by 20. Let's give 8. Like I was like, I've got it. And then to just see her sit at freaking 4.
Yeah. Maybe non-diabetics also have really high blood sugar, and the answer is just, I mean, to give more insulin to a point, but then you just have to wait it out. But again,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm
yeah.
wondering. That's so crazy.
So yeah, it was just kind of a crazy, crazy week for sure. And once we got her off the steroids, just like rediscovering, relearning what her body's needs actually were, especially like I said, given that we're still in altitude, she still was technically fighting her virus, like, and it's just there were too many factors. And so once we got her back home, we really focused on like trying to regain control. Um, and we were able to do it, but it's also like my mental health video, Monday video that hasn't come out yet. I uploaded it
Mhm.
to the drive. It'll come out next week. Kind of touches on this, but I just am in this headspace, I would say, and like the illness with the steroid use did not necessarily help. Where some days I'm like, I am so ready to be proactive, really pay attention, like stay on top of it because we've talked about this endlessly. It is easier to have a high time in range and stay in range when you just put in that effort before,
Yep.
and you're not chasing. But like it's gotten to this point where wanting to live life has started to take priority over making the diabetes decisions before living the life. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
where it's just like I don't know, it's like she wants to go outside and I just am like, great, my child is going outside to play instead of thinking, what's the blood sugar? When was the most recent meal? Let me like be a playful mom and be like, okay, no problem. And guess what else? One extra popsicle for everyone. Like I just am not doing that. I'm just like, okay, go outside, have fun. Yeah, Ani says she wants a popsicle too.
Popsicle.
So yeah, I I think that it's been an interesting thing with my mental health and just checking in with myself a lot of being like, just because I'm in this online space with you and because I do preach the whole like you can have great control and whatever does not mean that I am required to pick up my follow app and show 85 to 90% in range all the time. Right. And I think I'm really struggling with that because
Yeah.
I feel like I owe it to the community to be like 100% of the time, I'm always in that 85 to 90%, like I claim to be. And I know I can get there. And for a while, we were always there. But the older she's gotten, and the fact that we added another child to the mix and moved and whatever, it's like that's just not always the case. And it's not because I don't know how and I don't know what I'm doing. It's because I'm prioritizing other things.
Yeah. I
So
relate to that so much.
it's just like weird. Yeah. So like the steroid thing like really bugs me because we're about to go into her next endo appointment like sometime in August and I know her A1C is taking a hit. Her 90-day time in range dropped from 85% to 79% because of how severely horrible
Yeah.
that week was. It's like I think that if I wasn't here online trying to be like, you guys can do it, let's do it, whatever, I wouldn't care. And so I'm just
Mhm.
being, yeah, it's a weird mental thing that I'm going through of trying to balance the reality here. Here's the reality world, type one together
Yeah.
world. And also I promise that I know what I'm doing. I
Well,
don't
you don't
just
need to say that. I mean,
But do you
I
know what I mean?
know what you mean 100% because I'm constantly in the same boat of I go through those waves as well as a person living with it, right? You never get a break, and to a degree my version of a break is not being as proactive and not caring as
Yeah.
much and going off of vibes, right? Which I've sort of figured out to work really well, but I saw multiple days in the last few weeks of I've been gone 2 weeks of traveling where I was in the 60s or 70%, which is really rare for me, right? And I was like, what's going on? But
Yeah.
I was just living. And sometimes you just
Yeah.
don't care. And you have to not care in order to build back up your, or like recharge your battery to be able to care again. You have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And this is why I think people enjoy our show too, is because we're saying it how it really is. Like, none of us can be perfect 100% of the time. And also, life factors add into this so much. Like, number one, you
Mhm.
did have another baby and all these other things going on. Like, of course, it's going to take a back seat for a little while. And of course, when you had more time to dedicate to it, it was easier before. And also, the steroids thing, like, yeah, if you're 14% in range, that's going to drastically skew
No.
your numbers, but that doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. That's because of the steroids. Like, you were doing
Yeah.
everything you possibly could. And so I've also been noticing lately, like, because I think I shared on my personal story yesterday. In my head, my time in range while I was gone was really down. But then I looked at it and it was like the previous 2 weeks before traveling was 92% in range. And then those 2 weeks of traveling, I was 90% in range. So really it was good. I think what it is like when you have the time and the space and like you're having a good day, it's so easy for me to be 98, 99, 100% in range. And then on those days that are hard, it's
Yeah.
hard to even hit 75% because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're sitting at 250 and it's really stubborn. So it's going to take up more time and drastically lower that.
Yeah.
Like, finding a middle range is almost harder, like you mentioned before. When you're in range, it's easier to stay in range. And when you're out of range, it's harder to get back into range, right? Like, that sounds obvious, but getting off the roller coaster is so much harder. It's all just data, and we have to remind ourselves of that. And if you zoom out and you took out those steroid days, I'm sure that the time in range would still be amazing. And even if not, like, you have to live and you have to be a parent
Yeah.
and let her live, and that's just the reality, and you're going to get back to it. But obviously, like, you know how. I think that's such a key thing. A lot of times we know how and what we need to do, and we just can't put it into practice for a lot of
Yeah.
different reasons.
Yeah. And that's also like what I touch on in my video that'll go up next week is like, or maybe it's already up if this,
By the
when
time
this
they're
episode
listening, yeah,
comes
it'll
out.
go up yesterday.
Yeah. So I've never felt more burnt out in my life of diabetes. And I just like, it feels so selfish to say that because it's her disease, it's her body, it is what she has to deal with forever. But that there is that reality too. It's like both things can be true at the same time. And I have been so burnt out on diabetes like for a long time, like half a year, and it's really showing. And then I'll get to a point of like being like, I'll burn out on making all the proactive decisions. And so then I'll just like let her be a kid. I'll forget about it. I'll let the alarms tell me what to do. We're on the roller coaster. It's not fun, whatever. And then I'm suddenly burnt out of the roller coaster,
Yeah.
where it's like, uh, I suddenly have like a lot of energy to give this dang disease because I'm so freaking sick of hearing those dang alarms and seeing up, down, up, down, up, down. And I don't know, like, just as I'm saying all this, my brain is in a million places, but as I'm saying all this, I'm like thinking about also Hattie potentially listening to this as an adult. And I like want to say to her, I'm sorry, but also I've always tried to achieve a balance where I'm honoring myself and my abilities while maintaining your health and wellness. And if like you're truly struggling, I'm gonna like pull myself up by the bootstraps. But at the same time, like I don't know. There's so much here.
Yeah, there's so much going on. And I also think when fun things are happening in life, like vacation or big life changes, for you having a baby, for me, like, I just got engaged and I like was thinking a lot more about how annoying diabetes was through all of those moments. Like, while I was traveling, just trying to have fun, it seems to highlight how annoying diabetes is.
Yeah.
And even when I got engaged and we were like walking down to the place where I thought I was about to get engaged and I'm thinking about my blood sugar, like, those moments really suck. And when you're just trying to enjoy life versus when you're in the routine of things, it feels just kind of normal and almost more manageable.
That's so true. That's so true. Because we got home from Tahoe and then it was like she went to diabetes camp and that was great and fun. We can do a separate episode on that. And they managed pretty well, like she had highs, she had lows, but nothing severe or scary. Um, and yeah, just everything is out of routine. It was funny the other day, I actually texted her health tech because I was just like, miss
Oh,
you. I miss our routine. Like it's just there's something different about somebody who really knows your kid uniquely. So yeah, we're excited for school to start. Even
yeah.
Hattie's excited. I'm like, aren't you having fun at camp? Because now she's at her other camp at her former preschool. And she's just like, camp's boring. Home is boring. Everything's boring. I just want to go to school. I want to learn how to read.
Okay, okay.
That's the best. I hope you always say that.
Yeah. She's so scholarly. I love that. Well, yeah. I think all the feelings that you're having are so normal at this time in your life and
Yeah.
understandable.
I need to like journal my feelings, I feel like, so that we can have an episode where I'm more coherent. Maybe when I start getting more sleep.
Yeah.
We're
It made a
still
lot of
waiting.
sense though. I think a lot of people are gonna relate to that. And also like you're allowing yourself to have those waves and that's good for like if Hattie were to ever hear that or anyone living with type 1 themselves, like they need to be able to do that for themselves too.
I know
It's
that
just the
that's
reality.
something that I think about a lot also is like I want her to know that if she is just struggling with her diabetes and she's struggling with making decisions, doesn't want to do it, I will be the last person who ever says like, why'd your sugar go high today?
Yeah.
Like I might go up to her and be like, are you burned out? Do you need help? Is there something I can do for you to make it easier? But I'm never going to be like, you got to stay on top of it? Like
Yeah.
Danny and I were talking about what it would have looked like when we were kids. Like, yeah, I just never want to be the parent who is on her. Why'd you go high? Why'd you go low? What's going on? We need to talk about it. I just only ever want to be the parent who's like, I'm here if you want to talk about it,
Hmm.
and I want to take away whatever burden you'll allow me to,
I
and
love
just like
that.
leave it at that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's all we can ask for. And my family did a good job of that. And I think if it was the opposite, you just get more burnt out and you rebel more and you go against
Yeah.
diabetes. So,
Right? Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
All
Um,
right.
that
Should
was
we
a good
wrap
one.
this?
That was longer than I thought it was going to be. Sorry
No,
for
this
all the
was
pauses.
no, it was great. And I hope that, yeah, people feel a little more not informed about steroids, but like know what to expect. And also, like, I personally just want to avoid them unless I absolutely need them, which is easier
Yeah.
said than done, of course. But like, if a doctor is ever just like, oh, maybe you could do this, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm a type 1
Yeah.
diabetic. Do I actually need this?
Yes. And so one thing I will say, thanks for bringing that up too, is quite a few people in the DMs were also saying to me, like, we avoid them at all costs. And I don't think anyone meant it like you shouldn't have said yes to them. But moving forward, I agree that unless they're absolutely necessary. But in this case, we actually, like, the doctor called me before, like, he asked my husband, because my husband was with Hattie in the hospital.
Yeah.
And my husband was like, I want to say yes if that's your medical opinion, but can we call my wife? She's a nurse. And so he was talking to me, and I was like, yes. The second he
This
said
seems
it, I said
serious.
yes. Like,
Yeah.
it's on it's funny like how badly she was struggling breathing. My first thought was she needs steroids. This is bad.
Yeah.
And so it was a kind of like a non-negotiable. Like she has an immunocompromised immune system as it is. We're at elevation. She's young. She has diabetes. Like
Gotta do it.
she's got this gnarly virus that affects
Mhm.
her way worse than everyone else. And so funny. I was like, hey doc, like, you know, we just spent 14 hours in a car together. She's all over her baby sister all the time. We also have a 3-year-old. And I was like, our 2-month-old, like, what are the
Yeah.
chances? And he was like, it's highly infectious. And I was like, so I'll see you in 2 days. And he was like, probably. Luckily, nobody else caught it, which
Wow.
makes me believe that it truly is Hattie's immune
Hmm.
system, which is just such a bummer, but that's her lot in life, unfortunately. Yeah. So,
That's rough. I'm so glad no one else got it though. That would have
I
been
know, me
very
too. I was
chaotic.
really scared.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's that. So, if you have any questions about any of it, feel free to DM us or leave them below. And then also, like we were saying, if you have experience with steroids or if you know the science behind it, if you're a doctor or an NP, like please reach out to us. We would be thrilled to learn more.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm
Should
so
we do a
glad we're
roll
back.
call?
And oh yeah, roll call. Let's do it. Clearly, I'm out of practice. I'm at 126.
Hattie's 165.
All right. We'll see everyone next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.